Hi everyone, this is Amanda from Astrology Success, and I'm with Larry Turnley, who's a
Hi,
radio
Amanda.
practitioner. How you going? And we're doing
Good.
part 2 of astrology versus numerology. And in part 2, we're going to cover the sun signs Cancer, Leo, Virgo, and we're going to cover the life path numbers 4, 5, and 6. So if you missed the first video, we'll just do a quick recap on how you figure out your life number and add it up, because everyone often knows their sun sign number, but they don't know their life number. So Larry, you can explain it again, yeah?
Yeah, so your birth date, you added up single digitly all the way through. Mine's the 30th of the 9th, 1959. That adds up to 36. And 3 plus 6 is 9. So you end up with the 36-9.
So that's how you calculate it. And so that would be your life number. So we're talking about life number 4, starting up, and versus Cancer. So for me, Cancer is the 4th house in the zodiac. It's a lot about family. It's a lot of your family stuff, and your family of origin, and often your mother. Also can really appear in that section of the chart. And Cancer, of course, is moon sign. It's ruled by, and it's really themes around family and mother as well. So Cancers really do act when it comes to anything to do with family. That's when you'll see them really get into action if they need to do something for the family and rise to the occasion. So what would you say?
And they're a water sign too, aren't they?
Yes, that's correct. They're a water sign. Ruled by the moon. So fluctuating emotions can be that bit up and down. But so quite a intuitive and psychic sort of sign as well. What would you say about a life number 4?
Well, 4 is the completion of a square. If you've got 1 and 2, and then you've got 3 communicating between 1 and 2, 4 completes the bottom of that square. So they're like a foundation number. They're a completion of foundation number. And like Cancers, they're the first number in the family line. So they are very family orientated, and they're there to provide the basics. They're focused on providing a base and food and shelter and providing for their family. So it's a very worker bee number.
Nurturing. Very nurturing number.
No. They're not on the emotional line. They're actually on the practical line with numerology. So you don't get that crossover emotionally. It's more the practical side and the family side that lines up with Cancer. They're very routine methods, systems, and detail focused. If they're batting from below the line, they get bored and lazy, but usually they're work orientated. They work hard. They're the sort of people that will get their hands dirty and get stuck in to do the dirty work. They're not fussy. They're very they're dependable, they're loyal, they turn up on time, all that sort of stuff.
And I'd say they're qualities of a Cancerian as well. But Cancers, of course, are very nurturing, probably to their detriment, where they're nurturing everyone and forgetting to nurture themselves, almost like almost typical mother role where everyone else has been looked after and, oh, what about me, sort of thing. So, So lots of lessons about.
So 4s can be very concerned about just their home bodies, providing a home and the basics in life and survival. And they're and the 1, 4s, and 7s are the health line, the practical line. So 4s provide this completion where they'll work hard to get things done. You can rely on What was that, Amanda?
And practical as well, you know, as you mentioned.
Yeah, very practical. Yeah, and you know, they can be a little bit glass half empty, and they can be a little bit fault findish. You know, because they can focus on details, they can get a little bit over focused on details. Yeah. So it can bring in OCD as well.
Right. Yeah.
If things get out of control in their outside world, well, then they get more focused on details on their inside.
Well, that's really
interesting. They can control.
So that's sort of almost a little bit of a difference with if we were comparing that to Cancerian, which I don't think those would be necessarily attributes. Yeah. That more sounds like a Virgo to me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, correct. Yeah, Virgo's got the analytical. Fours have a detail ability. Yeah.
Detail ability. So yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, because they'll focus on the little things.
Yeah. And when you're talking about fourth house in astrology, fourth house, I often find anyone who's got planets or even just the ruling planet on the fourth house, it does tell us a lot about the family story, the story of origin, you know, something about their upbringing and you know, things that are in there. We were just talking before this started that I've got a lot of Virgo planets in mine, so it's like there was a lot of things around perfectionism. So so perfectionism and things like that. So there can be other things. I mean, I actually have it's called the IC or your fourth house, but I have Leo on there. So but a lot of the planets sitting in that fourth house are in Virgo. So yeah, it's really interesting to sort of look at numerology and then even the house system and how they fit together. Because because fourth house is very much about, you know, the basic needs and the family and, you know, what you know, those important sort of, you know,
like one of the things and ones and fours can go through is lack of. You know, they can both focus on a lack of because they're a practical based number. And so it brings in this, you know, I need to focus on providing the practicalities of my life, and therefore they will go to worrying about having enough to get by. So fours can get a little bit glass half empty. Because of that. So they can focus on what they haven't got rather than what they have got.
And I mean, the key to abundance, of course, is always like focusing on your gratitude and what you do have. So
that's right.
Yeah, so it's
glass
really
half full.
Yeah, so it's more tipping that
but
round.
What I'm saying is fours will go through that lack of to learn faith and trust.
It's interesting.
Instead of dwelling in fear and doubt.
Right. And I've been watching a lot more about and watching YouTubes and different information about that. But that scarcity mentality or that abundance issues seems to be a lesson that a lot of us come here to learn.
Well, it comes through the practical side, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So you'll find ones, fours, and sevens are very entrenched in their outer world.
Yes.
And work.
Yeah.
And what the home I've got, and all the practicalities that I need,
So lessons around that. So what's some advice then for a four then that wants to tip that around? I mean, we gave one already. It's like being grateful for what you have, even if things are a struggle. There's always a lot of stuff that you have got that you should be grateful for, including being alive.
Correct.
No,
it's just, I think just being aware of the fact that you can over focus on the downside as easily as focusing on the upside. It's just being aware that your tendency is to be looking at what I haven't got.
Yes. And that's almost that lack mentality when we talk about the law of attraction. It's like, looking at the lack rather than it's almost, you've got to be like in the space of I have to attract more. So so definitely lessons around that.
And if I look at it from a tradesman point of view, that it's, when you start out as a subcontractor, you're always a little bit stressing about, where your next work's coming from. You're self-employed now, and, I just need to do a good, and you start learning that you just need to do a good job.
Yes.
Turn up on time, treat people with respect, and you get recommended. And then then you stop worrying about where the work comes from because you're more focused on the quality of your job. That's a 4.
Right. And well, that's
that's a 4 learning curve, where I realize if I do a good job, I naturally just get the work coming in for me. Instead of having to look for it, it just turns up. And every subcontractor would go through that on some level, where they've got to have trust and faith in the job they do will get them recommended, and the work keeps rolling in.
Yeah. So that's really a great.
So that's a real 4 learning curve.
Right. And possibly a Cancerian learning curve too, because I find many stress about security, and not so much to the word stability, but I think security is a really big word attached to Cancerian. It's like that's what they're seeking. They're seeking that security, and often they seek that, through having material or finances or abundance as well.
The other side of 4s is it can set limits, restrictions as well.
Yeah.
So, if you're in a 4-month or a 4-year, you're going through limits and restrictions.
Right.
And, to learn to budget and to focus on details.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Not be wasteful.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. To be very practical. Yeah. With what you do have.
With what you do have.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And often
it also it brings you back with dealing with all the small things that you avoid sometimes.
Right. Fantastic. Yeah. Which is, and I find that sometimes in those leaner times you learn to not it's like when you've got money, you'll spend it. When you've got less money, you'll pull things in. And what do I really need? So it's almost good lessons in that sense as well, because
4s have a natural ability not to waste.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Because they're over the details.
Yeah.
Money wise, they know where their last cent goes.
That's possibly quite Cancerian too, because I feel like they've always got something tucked away somewhere. Like a mum, like there's some money sitting somewhere.
So the 4 is almost the opposite to a 5.
Right. So that's a good segue into 5. Yeah.
So a 5 wants their freedom to experience the variety of life. They don't want to be tied down. They don't want to be boxed in. They want to be free to be spontaneous. And free to explore and to change. They don't want to be tied to family. They want to explore other communities and other cultures. They want to travel and move. So
being in the moment, perhaps creativity, would that include creativity, or being in the moment, almost that play-like, in childlike sort of, or not?
5s are very quick. They're very social. So if you've got one, so 5 is right in the middle of a grid with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It touches every number. So they're very comfortable socializing with everybody.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's their skill set. They can fit in. Yeah.
But
it also gives them a certain amount of avoidance of the details.
So how would a 5 compare to like Leo, which Leo is the 5th house, is the ruler, is a 5th house, and in comparison to a Leo who's very much a creative spirit?
I've always find, that Leos are very strong within their family, like
Yes.
leaders within their family.
Yeah.
And the interesting part is their Achilles heel is they're emotionally insecure, you know.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
even though they're the rock for their family, they
Yeah.
want reassurance themselves. And you don't often see that with Leos because they're always so strong.
They've almost got that fake it till you make it quality, I feel like Leos, but is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
underneath or is it masking something as well? I always liken the Leo to the in the Wizard of Oz, like the lion in the
The
Wizard of
lion,
Oz, where they're
yeah,
trying to find the
with the
heart to
braid.
be sort of brave.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
almost like
yeah.
that quality. But
Well,
it's very well hidden often, I think, as well, because as you
yes,
say,
no, it's exactly right. It's not,
mm,
you don't see it off the bat because they're such strong people,
yes,
Um,
yeah,
but, it's the same with fives, they travel a lot, they're full of confidence,
yeah,
they're extroverts and da da da. But
mm,
in actual fact, they look for reassurance and emotional security. So
right.
sometimes they will go into partnerships and sacrifice traveling and movement and all that
Ah.
because they want the emotional reassurance
There you go. So, yeah,
that you get from partnership and family.
yeah,
So it's almost like fives need a security blanket of family to
yes,
be able to move and travel,
yeah,
and
yeah,
explore. Yeah.
yeah. And I guess my comment on Leos is like I find them extremely a creative sign. So I
Yep.
think, they
Yep.
really come to life in that creativity and following their passion, being
Yes.
that little bit more selfish, if you like, in that sense
Yeah.
that, doing what they really enjoy and spending that time and not sacrificing their own needs. Because I find any Leo that's sacrificing their needs is not very happy. They need that.
Yeah.
They need
And they're
that.
usually sacrificing it to family.
Yes, oh, there you go. Yes.
But it's sort of like the same thing. They use the
Yeah.
family for the emotional security
Yes.
on one hand, but they, to branch out into their own life, they need
Yeah.
the strength on another. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. To
Yeah.
be able to
Yeah.
sort of lead that creative life and that unique
Life. Yeah.
creativity that they have to offer. Yeah.
And that whole extrovert stuff as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you see a lot of Leos that are in the limelight or Leos that are, quite comfortable with that sort of front and center
Yeah.
area. I find
Yeah.
with the interesting with the Leos is that the Leo that doesn't get, and look, you can have other planets in your chart as we've discussed in part one of the video. Like you might just have Leo in your sun sign, you might have a lot of Cancer, a lot of Gemini, a lot of some other sign really as a main theme of your chart. But I find with a lot of Leo qualities, if they don't get that attention, almost like that little child, that clapping, like, oh, good on you, you did that really well. As a child, they don't get that sort of, almost that attention and that time put into
Yeah.
them.
Correct.
They can
Correct.
be then looking for that attention a lot of times still as an adult,
Yeah.
needing to
Yeah.
get it
Yeah.
back. And then it's like they may not get it because they need it so much.
Yeah.
It's like they're, oh, well, why
Yeah.
wasn't I, why are they not
I
giving that to
think
me? Why?
I think it's very similar to a five in that if fives don't have an outlet
Yeah.
for the travel and movement and change and spontaneity and meeting people and exploring, then
Yeah.
they can get very frustrated at work or at home or with their
Yeah.
partner because they haven't created an outlet. So they think all those things are holding them back from actually doing those things, but it's
Yeah.
not actually having a life doing that. So, some people might be, tour guides. Yeah, well, that's a
Yeah.
perfect five job, isn't it? But if
Yeah.
you're not a tour guide and you've got a 9 to 5 job, it
Yeah.
just means that on the weekends you get in your 4-wheel drive and you go out and explore.
And you do that.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and having an outlet for that five energy. And I think Leos can be a little bit the same. They can get a bit
Yes.
frustrated if they haven't got that creative outlet for themselves.
Which I would always suggest if you're not making money from that creative outlet. Well, I mean, firstly, now we're in a time where you can actually make great money from your creative outlets. Like we've seen all sorts of things that have really launched. You know, artists once a time probably struggled. Now it's a great time to be creating art of any type. So look, if that's not their bread and butter, where they're actually earning money, they can always have a hobby or have some type of a role that will, you know, fuel that fire, even if it's a volunteer role. That, you know, that sparks that.
And Leo's a fire sign, so they've got plenty of self-start and get up and go.
Yes, they do. And they're a fixed sign, so I find with their fire, as opposed to when we talked about Airy being a fire sign, and I think I mentioned that, they're like to me, a short sprinter. You know, if we compare it to the Olympics, the short sprinter, not the marathon runner. Leo's got more the marathon quality because it's a fixed fire, so it's almost like that eternal flame. It can burn out. So they need to be, all fire signs need to be mindful of overdoing it because they can actually burn out, but they've got a little bit more fixed fire to keep going, I find, with
would you say they have the leadership qualities, Amanda?
Absolutely, leadership qualities as well. Well, because they also don't mind often being that spokesperson, so they might be the spokesperson in the group. So they might consult with the group. They might need another person or the group to give them that strength and that brave. But then once they've got that, they'll be maybe the spokesperson in the group. So great at that role.
Too good.
Okay, so we'll just move on to the last one we're going to cover today, which is Virgo and life number 6. I feel like I'm a Virgo expert. Well, you've got Virgo moon. I've dated many Virgos, so I feel like it's there's a lot of themes around perfectionism with a Virgo. So it's like, you know, they really set themselves to that high benchmark. And expect everyone else to be at that benchmark, but they don't expect anyone else as much as whatever pressure they're putting on everyone else is nothing compared to what they're putting on themselves. Find
very
in the shadows.
Orientated.
They are very family orientated, and you know, often really great parents. Even if they didn't have a great parent role model themselves, I find that they can actually make really great parents themselves. They really take it seriously. That's definitely, you know, where you'll see them excel.
That matches in with 6 being the perennial family number, parenting number, and home number. You know, marriage, truth. You know, they're big on truth and doing the right thing. Have strong opinions, 6s, very strong opinions. They get a little bit black and white about things because they've got such strong opinions and they need to learn a bit of grey. And they want to create harmony and balance, but they'll go to war to get that, you know? So it brings in these extreme polarities of war and peace, love and hate, you know, because they're so black and white.
But I find Virgos can be very black and white as well, like, you know, as well in the way that they operate. So that, you know, this way or this way. Absolutely. And I guess the shadow side of that perfectionism is it's never perfect enough, so never getting the job done. So it's like they need to keep going and go going, and they can't get the finish line because they can't make it perfect enough. On the upside, I find Virgos are fantastic employees. If you want a rich employee that really is going to do that great job and do a job that, especially perhaps in trades, is going to do a job that like you do for your own house, I find Virgos are often the one for that. A lot of pride in their work.
And part of that is, you know, 6 is really like beautifying their home.
Okay, so it's very similar.
So they're constantly, you know, beautifying and making things beautiful, you know, and adding value by, you know, they can be very art and crafty, you know, and make their own style, that sort of thing,
And Virgo is very much, and like we talked about it, analytical. They're ruled by Mercury. So just like Gemini, they're ruled by Mercury. So there's a definite analytical sort of quality to them.
Part of it.
I find they choose partners based on like that. They like an intelligent sort of partner, I would find, or someone that they can have that great communication and banter and sort of learn from.
That matches in with the 6. It is a mind. It's academic number and a mind energy number. and you know, it's really having an outlet for the mind, you know, a lot of time as well. Yeah.
And qualities
they like taking on community responsibilities and, you know, roles, so they can be teachers, trainers, that sort of thing. Because
someone in health.
Yeah.
Virgo is very much a health, and sixth house is definitely the house of health and work. Pets as well, because pets bring you into that daily routine and habits, and Virgos are known for loving their routine and having, you know, a routine or the way that they do it. You can always tell a Virgo by the way they work. It's very like they'll turn anything into a uniform, I find.
Is that because the earth quality of the Virgo?
Yeah, I think also that daily habit, and that you know, it's a sixth house sort of daily habit, and work is very much like a routine. It's very grounding, going to work and having those qualities. Whereas you talked about, you know, some numbers or some signs might want to get away from that, and you may have planets in your chart that want to get away from that as well. But Virgo does tend to like a routine, and they'll thrive with a bit of a routine as well. So. And they're good at creating a routine and sort of structure as well, and very mindful of their health. I find with Virgos, they can either go off the rails, or then you'll see them and they're doing a 180-degree turnaround where they're just like, you know, fully into the health. And look, you've got Virgo moon, which we discussed, and I find a lot of people with Virgo moon are very much into health or working on health clients. I've got the moon in the sixth house. It's in Scorpio, but my moon, I often in my other business picked up a lot of health clients. That's what I was always gravitating towards, and I enjoyed the most. So yeah, it can play out in different ways. Yeah.
Too good.
I think also the thing with the Virgo, probably the advice I have is like that need to serve is so strong. It's just making sure that they are being paid, because they might be doing, as you said, every community project there is free of charge, and then getting resentful. Oh, hold on, what about, you know, my time? Because they do really love to serve. So it's, you know, being mindful that you still deserve to be paid for what you're doing. So yeah, that's sort of a little bit of a reminder.
Too good.
So that would be, so I think that really wraps up those three life numbers and wraps up Cancer, Leo and Virgo. And our next video we're going to cover 7, 8 and 9, and we're going to cover so it will be Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius. That we'll cover in the next one. So stay tuned if you want to learn more about those. And about the life numbers of 7, 8, 9. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say as well. All right. Well, thank you. Tune out, and we'll see you all next time on the next video. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.